Catherine had lived for 400 years. He had seen stars die. He had watched empires crumble to dust. He had killed enemies that would make lesser beings go mad with fear. In all that time, he had never felt small until today he stood in the briefing room of the Coalition warship Eternal Dawn, his forearms crossed over his broad chest. His pale blue skin caught the cold light of the holographic display. Around him stood warriors from 6 different species. Tovans with their armored shells. Velish with their long limbs and silver eyes. Cathran's own people, the Valorians. Tall and proud and ancient . And then there were the humans. 4 of them. Small, soft, fragile little things with their 2 arms, and their thin skin and their laughably short lives. Catherine watched them with something between pity and confusion. The one called Sergeant Daniel Cruz was showing pictures to the woman beside him. Corporal Maya Bennett, her file said. She had dark hair tied back and a scar on her chin. She smiled at whatever Cruz was showing her. Emma's getting so big, Cruz said. She lost her first tooth last week. Cried for an hour because she thought it meant she was broken. Maya laughed. It was a warm sound. Strange to hear in a room about to discuss death. Kids are wild, Maya said. My nephew thinks he can fly if he jumps off high enough things. We've had 3 hospital trips this year. Nearby, the youngest human was talking to the medic. Private First Class Kevin Liu could not have been more than 22 years old. A child by Valorian standards. The medic, Dr. Hannah Cole, was checking her supplies while he spoke. You think we'll be back in time for the playoffs? Kevin asked. Focus on not dying first, Hannah said, but she was smiling. Then we can talk about baseball. Catherine turned away. He found their commander, Admiral Vethel, and spoke quietly. These are the reinforcements? Humans? The Admiral's 4 eyes blinked slowly. They were requested specifically. By whom? By High Command. The humans have proven effective in unusual situations. Catherine did not hide his doubt. We are going against the Hollow Ones, beings that kill gods. And you send me creatures that live for less than a century and break if they fall wrong? Admiral Vethal was quiet for a moment. You have not fought beside humans before. I have not needed to. Then perhaps, the Admiral said carefully, you will learn something. The briefing began. The holographic display showed a dead world called Veth 4. It was a place of eternal twilight, covered in the ruins of a civilization that had died before Catherine's species had learned to make fire. The Hollow Ones have been dormant for 10,000 years, the briefing officer explained. Now they wake. They are attempting to open a gateway in the central temple. If they succeed, more of their kind will pour through, enough to consume this entire sector. Images appeared. The Hollow Ones, shadows given form, darkness with hunger. They did not just kill their victims. They ate their fear first, then their hope, then their souls. What remained was empty husks that wandered until they finally stopped moving. 10,000 years ago, they destroyed the Valorian god Ethmer, the officer continued. They have killed divine beings across 12 galaxies. They are ancient beyond measure. They are powerful beyond understanding. Catherine felt the old fear stir in his chest. Every Valorian knew this story. Their god had fallen to these creatures. The being that created their species had been devoured like prey. He looked at the humans. Surely now they would understand. Surely now the jokes would stop and the fear would begin. Daniel Cruz was listening carefully, his face serious, but not afraid, just focused. Maya Bennett cracked her knuckles. Kevin. Liu took a deep breath and nodded to himself. Hannah. Cole finished organizing her medical kit and looked up with steady eyes. They were not afraid. Catherine did not understand. How could they not be afraid? Had they not heard? Did they not comprehend what they faced? The mission is simple, the officer said. Reach the temple. Destroy the gateway. Prevent the Hollow Ones from bringing reinforcements. The team will consist of, he listed names. Catherine heard his own. He heard others. And he heard the 4 humans confirmed. After the briefing, Catherine approached Daniel Cruz. The human looked up at him. Cruz was more than 2 feet shorter than the Valorian, but he met Catherine's gaze without flinching. Sergeant Cruz, Catherine said, I must ask, do you understand what we face? Beings that killed gods, Cruz said. Ancient evil, psychic attacks, reality-warping powers. Did I miss anything? And yet, you showed pictures of your daughter during the briefing. You joked about teeth. Cruz's expression softened. Yeah, I did. Why? The human was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. It was a tired smile. A knowing smile. Because she's why I'm here, Cruz said. Because in 6 hours, I'm going to walk into hell. And before I do that, I want to remember what I'm walking into hell for. I want to remember her face. Her laugh. The way she says daddy like it's the most important word in the universe. He pulled out the picture again. A little girl with dark hair and a gap-toothed smile. The Hollow Ones eat fear, right? Cruz continued. They feed on terror. But here's the thing about humans, big guy. We're always afraid. Every day. We're afraid of dying, of losing people, of not mattering. We live with fear like it's a roommate we can't get rid of. He put the picture away. So we learned to fight with it. Not against it. With it. I'm terrified right now. My hands want to shake. My gut is tight. But I've got a little girl waiting for me to come home, and that fear, it doesn't make me weak. It makes me dangerous. Catherine stared at him. You are strange creatures, he said finally. Yeah, Cruz agreed. We get that a lot. The alarm sounded. 6 hours had become 2. The Hollow One's signal was growing stronger. The gateway was building faster than predicted. The team assembled. Weapons were checked. Final words were spoken. Catherine watched the humans prepare. They moved with quiet efficiency. No more jokes now. No more pictures. Just focus. Just readiness. Maya caught his eye and nodded once. Kevin took a shaky breath, but stood firm. Hannah hummed softly as she secured her medical pack. And Daniel Cruz looked at the mission display. At the darkness waiting for them, and Catherine saw something in his eyes that he had not expected. Eagerness. Not the eagerness of madness. Not the blindness of ignorance. But the fierce, burning determination of a creature that had decided some things were worth dying for. The dropship doors opened. The mission began. And Catherine wondered, for the first time in 4 centuries, if perhaps he was the one who did not understand what he was facing. The world of Veth4 was a graveyard. Catherine stepped off, the dropship onto ground that had not known life for 1,000,000 years. The sky above was a bruise of purple and black, neither day nor night. The air tasted like dust and forgotten sorrow. All around them stood the ruins of a civilization so old that even the Valorians had no name for it. Whoever they had been, the Hollow Ones had eaten them. Every last one. The strike team moved in formation. 12 warriors from 6 species. Catherine took point with 2 other Valorians. The Tovans covered the flanks with their heavy weapons. The Velish scouts ranged ahead with their sharp eyes, and the humans stayed in the center, watching, waiting. Temple is 4 kilometers north, Daniel Cruz said quietly into his communicator. Everyone stay tight. Don't let them separate us. You have done this before? Catherine asked. Fought nightmare creatures in dead worlds? Cruz shrugged. Not exactly. But we fought in a lot of bad places. You learned to adapt. They moved through the ruins. Broken towers reached toward the dark sky like fingers of the dead. Empty streets wound between structures that might have been homes or temples or something humans and Valorians had no word for. Catherine felt it first. A cold touch at the edge of his mind. A whisper that was not quite sound. "Contact," he said. I sensed them. The shadows between the ruins began to move. The Hollow One scouts came like smoke given form. They had no true shape, just darkness that bent and twisted and reached. Where they passed, the temperature dropped. Where they looked, sanity trembled up. One of the Velish scouts screamed. He dropped his weapon and fell to his knees, clawing at his own face. "They're in my head," he shrieked. "They're showing me no, please." Another Torvan froze completely. His armored shell locked up as psychic terror flooded his mind. His eyes went wide and empty. Catherine felt it too. The cold fingers reaching into his thoughts, pulling up memories he had buried long ago. The death of his brother in the border wars. The face of the enemy who had killed him. The guilt that Catherine had carried for 2 centuries. He stumbled. His forearms went weak, and then gunfire exploded beside him. Daniel Cruz charged forward, his weapon blazing. He was screaming, but not in fear. In fury. In defiance. "Get out of our heads, you shadow-faced bastards." Maya Bennett flanked left, moving fast. Her shots were precise, each one hitting the center of a shadow form. The Hollow Ones recoiled. "They don't like that," she shouted. "Keep shooting. Don't give them time to think." Kevin Liu grabbed the frozen Tarvan soldier and dragged him behind cover. The young human's face was pale with fear, but his hands did not stop moving. He propped the alien against a broken wall and checked his wounds. "Hannah, I need you here." Dr. Hannah Cole was already running. She slid into position beside Kevin, her medical kit open before she even stopped moving. Her hands worked fast on the Torvan's psychic wounds, injecting compounds that would help clear his mind. "Stay with me, big guy," she said calmly. "Look at my eyes. Focus on my voice. You're safe. You're here. The shadows lie." Catherine watched all of this in the span of seconds. The humans moved like they had fought together for 1,000 years. Each one knew where the others would be. Each one covered the others without needing to speak. A Hollow One scout rushed toward Daniel. He did not retreat. He stepped into its path and emptied his magazine into its center. The creature shrieked, a sound that existed only in the mind, and dissolved into nothing. "Clear," Maya called. The shadows were gone. For now, Catherine pushed himself to his feet. His hands were shaking. The cold touch of the Hollow One still lingered in his thoughts. Daniel Cruz walked over to him. The human was breathing hard, but his eyes were steady. "You okay?" "Aye." Catherine did not know what to say. "You fought through their psychic attack." "How?" Cruz holstered his weapon. "We've been fighting our own demons since we crawled out of caves. These ones just have worse PR. I do not understand." "We're used to being afraid," Cruz said simply. "We're used to having monsters in our heads. Every human walks around with a brain that tries to convince them they're worthless, that everything is hopeless, that they should give up. Depression, anxiety, trauma. We've been battling psychic attacks since the day we evolved." He clapped Catherine on the arm. "The Hollow Ones are scary. But honestly, they're not that much worse than what we do to ourselves." They regrouped. The Velish scout was dead, his mind shattered beyond repair. The Torvan was recovering, thanks to Hannah's quick work. The team was down to 11. "We keep moving," Cruz said. "No time to mourn. Mourn later. Mission now." As they walked, Hannah fell into step beside Catherine. She was small, even for a human. Her hair was pulled back, and there was blood on her hands from treating the wounded. "You got hit pretty hard back there," she said. "How are you feeling?" "I have endured worse," Kethran lied. Hannah smiled. It was a gentle smile. "Sure you have. But you don't have to pretend with me. I'm a doctor. I've seen tough guys crumble and soft guys stand firm. There's no shame in being shaken." Kethran was quiet for a moment. "Your species confuses me," he admitted. "You are so fragile, so brief. How do you carry such courage in such small bodies?" Hannah thought about this. "My grandmother survived a war when she was young. Not a space war, just a human one. Bombs and bullets and running through streets on fire. She lost her parents, her home, everything. How did she endure? She didn't have a choice. So she just kept going. She came to a new country with nothing. Learned a new language. Raised 5 children alone. Worked until her hands were rough as leather." Hannah looked up at the dark sky. She died at 94. Last thing she did was tend her garden. Tomatoes and roses. She was dying, and she still wanted to make something grow. Why? Because that's what we do. Hannah met his eyes. We survive. And then we plant gardens. We have children. We write songs. We reach for the stars. Not because we're going to live forever. Because we're not. We know every moment is borrowed. So we make them count." Catherine did not respond. He could not. Something in her words had touched a place inside him that he did not know existed. They reached the temple's outer perimeter as the darkness above seemed to deepen. The ancient structure rose before them, vast and terrible, pulsing with energy that hurt to look at Dot, and then the air split open. A true Hollow One manifested. Not a scout, an ancient, a being that had existed when this universe was young. It filled the space before them like a hole in reality, and when it spoke, its voice was inside their minds. "We remember when your kind were fire and fury, little Valorian. We ate your gods. What are you but their forgotten children?" Half the team collapsed. Tovans fell. Velish crumbled. Even 2 Valorians dropped to their knees. Overwhelmed by despair, Catherine felt his legs giving way, but the 4 humans remained standing. Daniel Cruz raised his weapon. "Funny thing about being forgotten," he said. "It means you never saw us coming." The ancient Hollow One studied the humans with something that might have been curiosity, thought it had consumed civilizations. It had drunk the essence of beings that created stars. It had killed gods and worn their dying screams like jewelry. In all its endless existence, it had never encountered creatures quite like these. They were small, fragile. Their lives were sparks that barely flickered before going out. And yet they stood before it, weapons raised, and they did not kneel. The Ancient One pressed harder. It reached into their minds with tendrils of pure terror. It found their fears and pulled them to the surface. It showed Daniel Cruz, his daughter, dead in a burning house. It showed Maya Bennett, her family, weeping at her funeral. It showed Kevin Liu, his own body broken and forgotten in the dark. It showed Hannah Cole every patient she had ever lost, every failure, every moment of helplessness. Catherine, on his knees, watched the humans stagger. He saw Daniel's face twist with anguish. He saw Maya gasp and clutch her chest. He saw Kevin fall to his knees, tears streaming down his face. He saw Hannah's hands shake as she pressed them against her temples. They were breaking. Of course they were breaking. Nothing could withstand a Hollow One's assault. Nothing mortal could. Daniel Cruz took a step forward. His face was wet with tears. His hands trembled. But he took a step forward. "But the best you got?" His voice cracked, but the words came anyway. "Showing me my kid dead? You think I haven't had that nightmare every night since she was born? You think I don't know how fragile she is? How fragile I am. Another step. Every parent lives with that terror. Every single day. We send our kids to school, and we wonder if they'll come home. We watch them sleep, and we pray they keep breathing. You're not showing me anything new, Shadow. You're just confirming what I already carry. The Ancient One seemed to hesitate. Maya pushed herself upright. Blood trickled from her nose where the psychic assault had burst vessels. She wiped it away with the back of her hand and laughed. It was a raw, broken sound. You want to scare me with dying? She spat blood onto the dead ground. I've got 6 months to live. Cancer. Inoperable. The doctors gave me the news 3 weeks before this mission. Catherine stared at her. I volunteered anyway, Maya continued. Because if I'm going to die, I'm going to die doing something that matters. You think death scares me? Death is already on my schedule. But being useless? Being forgotten? That terrifies me. And right now, right here, I matter. So go ahead. Show me my funeral. At least it means someone showed up. She raised her weapon. Now let's see if ancient gods can bleed. Kevin was still on his knees, still crying. The youngest of them, barely more than a boy, shattered by visions of his own broken body. Hannah reached him. She knelt in front of him, ignoring the Ancient One looming above, ignoring the battle around them. She took his face in her hands and made him look at her. Kevin, hey, look at me. I can't, he sobbed. I can't do this. I'm not brave like them. I'm not, listen. Her voice was calm, steady, like she had done this 1,000 times. You don't have to be brave. You just have to be here. You just have to keep going. One breath, then another. That's all courage is. Just not stopping. But I'm scared. Of course you are. We're all scared. Cruz is terrified. Maya's terrified. I'm terrified. But we're here. We're together. And that's enough. It's always been enough. She pulled him into a hug. A human gesture. Simple. Ancient. One primate holding another against the darkness. We don't fight because we're not afraid, Hannah whispered. We fight because we're afraid, and we do it anyway. That's what makes us human. Kevin sobbed once more. Then he took a breath. Then another. He stood up. The ancient Hollow One recoiled. Catherine saw it. The unmistakable motion of something vast and terrible pulling back. Not from weapons. Not from power. From something it sensed in these small creatures. Something it did not understand. What are you? The Ancient One's voice echoed with confusion now. You burn with something we cannot consume. You carry fire that should have died when we killed the Makers. Daniel stepped forward again. His tears had dried. His fear was still there, visible in the tightness of his jaw, but it had been transformed into something else. You want to know what we are. We're the species that looked at the universe and decided it wasn't good enough. We're the idiots who climb mountains because they're there. We're the fools who cross oceans in wooden boats just to see what's on the other side. Maya flanked left, her movements fluid despite her wounds. We're the ones who build cities in deserts and gardens on frozen ground. We're the ones who keep having children, even though we know they're going to die someday. Kevin raised his weapon, his hand steady now. We're the ones who love even though love always hurts. Who hope even though hope is always risky. Who try even though trying means we might fail. Hannah took her place beside them, medical kit in one hand, pistol in the other. We're the ones who couldn't accept that death was the end. So we invented medicine, philosophy, art. We invented ways to live on even after we were gone. The 4 humans stood in a line before the Ancient. One, small, fragile, mortal, and absolutely unbroken. Daniel. Chambered around. We're human. And we brought our own fire. The Ancient One attacked Dodd, It was not used to prey that fought back. It was not used to mortals who refused to break. Its assault was furious, wild, driven by something that Kethran realized with shock might be fear. The humans scattered and returned fire. Their weapons did damage, actual damage, to a being that had killed gods. Not because the weapons were special, but because the ones wielding them absolutely believed they could win. Kethran pushed himself to his feet. The Ancient One's attention was on the humans now, and the pressure on his mind had lessened. He grabbed his weapon and joined the fight. For Ethmer! He roared, invoking his fallen god. But even as he fired, he knew the truth thought it was not the memory of the Valorian god that gave him strength. It was the sight of four small humans standing against infinity and refusing to. Blink. The Ancient One screamed inside their minds and fled toward the temple. The way was open, but they had lost 3 more warriors in the assault. Only 8 remained, and the true horror still waited inside. Daniel Cruz reloaded his weapon and looked at the temple's dark entrance. "Everyone good?" "Define good," Maya said. She was holding her side where something had hit her. "Alive and able to shoot." "Then yeah. Good enough." Daniel nodded. He looked at Kethran. "You coming?" Kethran met his eyes. This small creature. This brief, burning spark of a being. He had lived longer than 100 human generations, and he had never felt more alive than he did standing beside this mortal soldier. "I am coming," he said. "Lead the way, human." Daniel Cruz smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had accepted what was coming and chosen to face it anyway. "Then let's go kill something that thinks it's immortal." They entered the temple, and the darkness swallowed them whole. The inside of the temple was wrong. Not just dark. Not just ancient. Wrong. The walls seemed to breathe. The floor shifted beneath their feet like the skin of something sleeping. The air itself felt hungry. 8 warriors remained. 3 Valorians, including Kethran. 1 Torvan, his armor scarred from the earlier battle. And 4 humans who had no business being alive. They moved deeper. The gateway's pulse grew stronger with every step. Kethran could feel it in his bones, a rhythm that predated the stars. Whatever the Hollow Ones were building, it was almost complete. "Hostiles," Daniel whispered. "Lots of them." The corridors ahead were filled with Hollow One soldiers. Not ancients, but dangerous enough. Dozens of them. Maybe 100. More than the strike team could possibly fight. "Any other way around?" Maya asked. "Negative. This is the only path to the central chamber." Silence. Then Kevin spoke. "So we go through." Daniel looked at him. The young human's face was pale, but his eyes were steady. "Yeah," Daniel said. "We go through." The battle that followed was unlike anything Kethran had experienced in 4 centuries of warfare. The humans fought like no species he had ever seen. They moved constantly, never staying still, never giving the enemy a fixed target. They communicated in half-sentences and glances, understanding each other without words. Daniel took point, his weapon never stopping. He absorbed wounds that should have killed him. A slash across his arm. A psychic strike that made him stagger. A blow to the ribs that cracked at least 2. And he kept moving. Kethran fought beside him and watched in disbelief. "How?" he demanded. "How are you still standing?" Daniel grinned through bloody teeth. "Adrenaline's a hell of a drug. Also spite. Mostly spite." Maya covered their flank. She was wounded, badly, but she fought like her wounds were fuel. Every time a Hollow One got close to Kevin or Hannah, she was there, her weapon blazing. "Not today." She screamed. "Not my team. Not today." The Torvan fell. A Hollow One got inside his guard, and tore through his armor. He died without a sound, his last act throwing his heavy weapon to Kevin. Kevin caught it. He did not hesitate. He turned the massive gun on the enemy and opened fire. "This is for the big guy," he shouted. They pushed forward. The corridor became a nightmare of shadows and gunfire. 2 more Valorians fell, their minds shattered by psychic assault. Catherine was the last of his kind, still standing. Hannah ran into the open. A fallen alien soldier lay in the middle of the corridor. One of the Valorians, still alive, but paralyzed by fear. Hollow ones surrounded him, ready to feed. Hannah sprinted to him without hesitation. She grabbed his arm and dragged him toward cover, fully exposed to enemy fire. The Hollow One reached for her, and she shot it in the face without breaking stride. Come on, come on, come on," she muttered. "Move your legs. Help me out here." Catherine provided covering fire. "Why?" he demanded. "Why risk yourself for a stranger?" Hannah pulled the Valorian behind a pillar. She was already treating him, her hands quick and sure. "He needed help," she said simply. "I could help. What else would I do?" Catherine stared at her. Such a small thing. Such a brief life. And she spent it pulling strangers out of the fire. He was beginning to understand something. Something terrible and beautiful. Humans were not powerful despite their limitations. They were powerful because of them. Their short lives made every moment precious. Their fragile bodies made them value every soul. Their history of suffering had forged them into creatures that refused to yield, not because they could not be broken, but because breaking was simply not an acceptable option. They reached the gateway chamber. The door was massive, carved with symbols that hurt to look at. Beyond it, the gateway's pulse was deafening. Whatever was on the other side was vast and ancient and hungry. "This is it," Daniel said. "Everyone ready?" Maya felt it happen fast. A Hollow One that had been playing dead surged up and drove a tendril of darkness through her chest. She gasped, her eyes going wide, and collapsed. "Maya!" Kevin screamed. Daniel was at her side in an instant. He caught her before she hit the ground, cradling her head. "Stay with me," he said. "Hannah, get over here." Hannah ran to them, her kit already open. But Catherine could see the truth in her eyes. The wound was too severe. Even human medicine had limits. Maya grabbed Daniel's arm. "Don't," she said. "Don't waste time. I knew this was coming." "Shut up. You're going to be fine, Sarge." She smiled. It was tired and sad and somehow peaceful. "I got 6 months, remember? I just traded them for something better." Tears ran down Daniel's face. "You stupid, brave, impossible woman." "Yeah." Maya's grip tightened on his arm. "That's me." She looked at Kevin. "Hey, kid. Take my ammo. Finish it." "That's an order." Kevin was crying too. He knelt and took her magazines with shaking hands. "And Kevin?" Maya's voice was getting weaker. "Call my mom when you get back. Tell her I found something worth dying for. She'll understand." Kevin nodded. He could not speak. Maya looked at the gateway chamber door. "Make it count," she whispered. Her eyes closed. Daniel held her for one more moment. Then, gently, he laid her down. He took the photograph of his daughter from his pocket, looked at it, and put it away. When he stood, his face was stone. "Kevin, Hannah, Catherine." His voice was calm, dead calm. The calm of a man who had moved past fear into something else entirely. "We finish this. We finish it for her. We finish it for everyone." He kicked open the door. The gateway chamber was vast. The ceiling disappeared into darkness. The walls pulsed with energy. And at the center, the gateway itself churned and screamed. A tear in reality through which shapes were beginning to emerge. Guarding it was a hollow god. Catherine recognized it instantly. the entity that had killed Ethmer, the being that had devoured the Valorian deity 10,000 years ago. It filled the chamber with its presence, ancient and terrible beyond description. Catherine fell to his knees. His courage, tested beyond breaking for hours, finally shattered. 400 years of experience meant nothing before this thing. He was a child before infinity, but the 3 remaining humans did not fall. Daniel Cruz stood before a god-killer, weapon raised, and smiled. "You want to know why gods fear us?" he asked. The hollow god regarded him. A spark, a nothing, a creature that lived and died in the blink of an eternal eye. Daniel's smile grew wider. Because gods can die. And we've gotten really, really good at killing things that think they can't. He opened fire. The hollow god moved like nothing in the universe could hurt it, because, until now, nothing could dot it. Waved a tendril of darkness, and 2 of the emerging shapes from the gateway rushed forward. Hollow One soldiers, freshly pulled from whatever hell they called home. They died instantly when they reached Daniel, but more were coming. Always more dot. Kevin fired the heavy weapon he had taken from the fallen Torvan. The massive rounds tore through the soldiers, buying them time. Hannah stayed close, her pistol cracking, her other hand pulling Daniel back when a strike came too close. And Daniel himself fought like a man possessed. He had been wounded too many times. Blood ran from his arm, his side, his face. Something was broken in his chest, and every breath was agony. But he did not stop. He could not stop. Maya's face was in his mind. His daughter's smile was in his heart. Catherine forced himself to stand. His legs shook. His mind screamed at him to run. But he had seen too much tonight. He had learned too much. If these small, fragile creatures could face a god, then so could a 400-year-old warrior. He raised his weapon and fired. The hollow god laughed. The sound was despair given voice. It pressed against their minds, trying to crush them with the weight of eternity. "You are nothing," it said. "Brief candles in endless night. I watched your species crawl from the mud. I will watch you return to it." Daniel did not answer with words. He threw a grenade. The explosion did nothing. The god was unharmed. But the gateway behind it flickered. Just for a moment, Daniel saw it. Catherine saw him see it. "The gateway," Daniel shouted. "It's vulnerable. If we overload the power core, the blast would destroy everything in this chamber," Catherine said. "Including us. I know." Their eyes met. And Catherine understood what Daniel was planning. "No," Catherine said. "There must be another way." "There isn't." Daniel was already moving toward the gateway. "Someone has to manually overload the core. Get close. Arm it. Stay until it blows. I will do it. I have lived long enough. Your life. My life is a drop in the bucket compared to yours." Daniel smiled. It was tired. It was sad. It was utterly at peace. "But my daughter needs a universe to grow up in. That's worth everything I've got." He pulled out the photograph, looked at it one last time. Then he pressed it into Kevin's hands. "Give this to Emma. Tell her Daddy kept his promise. Tell her I did something that mattered." Kevin's face crumbled. "Sarge." Daniel grabbed him by the shoulders, pulled him close, hugged him like a brother. "You're gonna make it," Daniel said into his ear. "You're gonna go home and live a good life and get old. That's the mission now. You hear me? That's the mission." He let go. "Hannah, keep him alive." Hannah nodded. Her face was wet with tears, but her voice was steady. "I will. I promise." Daniel turned to Catherine. "Get them out. Tell your people what happened here. Tell them what humans can do." Catherine reached out and gripped Daniel's arm in the Valorian gesture of ultimate respect. "I will tell them," he said. "I will tell everyone. Until the stars go dark, Your name will be remembered." Daniel smiled one last time. Then he ran toward the gateway. The hollow god realized what was happening. It turned its full attention on Daniel, abandoning the others. Tendrils of darkness shot toward him. Reality bent around him, trying to stop him. He did not stop. Kevin and Hannah provided covering fire. Their weapons blazed. They screamed defiance at a god. Two small humans holding back infinity for precious seconds. Catherine joined them. His weapon roared. His voice joined theirs. Daniel took a hit to the leg. He stumbled but kept running. Another hit to the shoulder. He spun but kept going. A tendril of darkness pierced his side. He fell. He got back up. The hollow god screamed in frustration. This tiny creature. This spark. This nothing. Why would it not die? Why would it not break? Daniel reached the gateway's core. His hands were shaking. Blood poured from wounds that would have killed any Valorian. But he found the controls. He began the overload sequence. The hollow god rushed toward him. Daniel looked up at the ancient evil bearing down on him. At the thing that had killed gods. At the darkness that had consumed civilizations. He smiled. "Told you," he said. "We brought our own fire." He armed the core. The explosion was silent at first. A flash of pure white that seemed to freeze time itself. Then the sound came, a roar that shattered reality. Catherine grabbed Kevin and Hannah and ran. He did not look back. He could not look back. He carried them out of the chamber, down the corridor, through the temple as it collapsed around them. Behind them, the gateway tore itself apart. The hollow god screamed as it was pulled into the destruction, its eternal existence ending in the fire of a single human's sacrifice. Daniel Cruz died thinking of his daughter's smile. He died thinking of his team. He died thinking of the garden Hannah had talked about. And he died satisfied. They made it to the dropship. Hannah treated their wounds with hands that would not stop shaking. Kevin stared at the photograph in his hands and did not speak. Catherine flew them off the dying world. Behind them, VF4 crumbled. The temple collapsed. The gateway was gone. The mission was complete. On the evacuation ship, a Valorian commander approached Catherine. He was ancient, even by their standards, with scars from a dozen wars. "Your report," the commander said. "The human soldiers. What is your assessment?" Catherine looked at Kevin and Hannah. They sat together in the medical bay. Kevin was still holding the photograph. Hannah was still humming softly, a song from her homeworld. "You ask why gods fear them," Catherine said slowly. "I have seen it now. I understand." The commander waited. "Humans are small, brief, fragile. They know they will die. Truly know it. Feel it. Carry it every moment." Catherine's voice was quiet but firm. "And yet they love anyway. They hope anyway. They fight for strangers. They die for friends. They rage against the darkness, not because they think they will win, but because they believe some things are worth losing for." He turned to face the commander. The gods had power. The gods had eternity. But the gods forgot what it meant to be mortal. They forgot that the small and the brief can burn brighter than stars. Catherine looked out at the void, at the stars that had watched all of this unfold. "We killed the hollow god today. Not Valorians. Not any elder race. One human, with a broken body and a photograph of his daughter, walked into the heart of darkness and refused to let it win." The commander was silent. "The gods fear humans because humans remind them of what they lost," Catherine continued. "The fire of those who know their time is short and choose to make it matter anyway. I have lived 4 centuries. I have seen empires rise and fall. But I have never seen anything more terrifying or more beautiful than a human being who has decided that something is worth dying for." He walked away. In the medical bay, Kevin finally spoke. "We need to tell his daughter." Hannah nodded. "We will. We'll tell her everything." "What do we say?" "How do we explain that her father," Hannah took his hand. "We tell her the truth. We tell her that her daddy saved the universe. We tell her that when gods and monsters tried to break him, he thought of her smile and found the strength to stand. We tell her that she was his reason, his fire, his everything." Kevin looked down at the photograph. Emma Cruz smiled up at him, gap-toothed and perfect. "We're coming home, Sarge," he whispered. "We're bringing you home." Outside the ship, the stars burned, and somewhere, in whatever came after, Daniel Cruz was still smiling, because he had done something that mattered. Because his daughter would grow up in a universe that was safe, because he was human, and humans never stop fighting for the things they love.